Hello there. Thank you for staying with us and welcome to The Beam on Channels Television. I'm Victor Matthias. Now, with Nigeria still in the celebratory mood of its 60th anniversary, debates continue to occur as to whether or not Nigeria has reached her final potential 60 years after independence. However, one consensus seems to be the role young people can play in making or marring the future of the country. On the program today, we will be looking at ways the youth can get involved in decisions and programs that will take Nigeria to its desired El Dorado. We will also be looking at the plight of teachers as the world celebrates Teachers' Day on this day set aside for their honor. But before we get to all of that, let's take a look at the most talked about trends on the social media space.
Tweeps all over the world are celebrating teachers to commemorate the International Teachers' Day, which is held annually on October the 5th. Established in 1994, the World Teachers' Day aims to focus on appreciating, assessing, and improving the educators of the world, and to provide an opportunity to consider issues related to teaching. Voiced their outrage about the alleged wanton invasion of privacy, harassment, and killings by members of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad and other tactical squads. And in response to the cry, the Inspector General of Police has banned the outfits and its affiliates operating in federal, zonal, and state commands.
Well, there you go. Those were some of the trends, some of also the trends that, well, perhaps you might have expected to see and didn't see is the matches between Liverpool and Aston Villa, as well as that between Manchester United and Tottenham. But, of course, that was pretty much unexpected. But you can be a part of the conversation from wherever you're watching around the world. Just tweet at us at Channels TV, at Channels Beam, as well as at Victor_MBIDI. You can also use the hashtag Channels Beam. Well, joining us to look at today's topic, we have with us right here in the studio, Seun Awogbenle. He is a public policy analyst, a communications expert, and advocate for good governance and youth inclusion in politics. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Many thanks, Victor.
Are you a Man U fan or a Liverpool fan?
I'm a Real Madrid fan.
Okay, well, I think you won your game against, well, I think I kind of looked at the results, but either ways. We also have joining us via Skype, Michael Abimboye. He is a senior editor with Opera News. He is also an advocate of social change and a digital entrepreneur. He joins us via Skype from Lagos. Michael, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Indeed. We'll come back to you. But, Seun, why don't you kickstart this conversation for us? I mean, there's just so much, going on. Nigeria 60, we're looking at the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, and we're looking at the roles that young people can play in trying to move Nigeria from where it is to, like I said earlier on, the desired El Dorado. What do you think youth should be doing? Because if you look at it, some youths might tell you they're not interested in certain things, policy, politics, programs, but you need to be involved for you to be able to make that change. How do you think they can take themselves out of that bubble and make that desired or required change that they want to see?
Well, estimated at an average of about 60 million people, Nigeria's youth population consists about 1/4 of the nation's total population, presently at about 200 million people. Nigeria's population is expected to rise to about 400 million people by the year 2050, and that population, more than half of that population is expected to be young people, about 200 million people. But what we have seen so far over the years is that Nigeria has failed to maximize its huge reservoir of potentials in young people, and particularly what President Muhammadu Buhari calls the inherent wealth in our human capital. Nigeria has actually failed to maximize that
inherent wealth,
huge reservoir of potential, into growth, into productivity, and economic development.
And why is that?
And that is, I mean, I reckon, just like Chino Achebe, that the problem with Nigeria is simply and squarely the failure of leadership. Now, the point is, which takes us back to, the question that you asked, is that, the young people who themselves are the victims of this failure of leadership and near collapse of states, can they afford not to be interested? The answer is no. The truth is that leadership influences our lives. It is what determines leadership. The quality of leadership determines what we eat, what we wear. If we all get fair wages, if we get access to quality education, or if we get, access to healthcare, right? So now, what can Nigerian young people do? Nigerian young people need to be the pushback generation that reclaim the society. Our political culture is the one that's actually dominated by misfits. We cannot continue to allow...
Some might find that subjective. Some might not agree with you on that. But you made mention of pushbacks, and I'd like to just bring in Michael into this conversation. Michael, he's talking about pushbacks, and we just saw a policy pushback not too long ago, maybe like a few hours ago, actually. There was this outcry on social media about the, how would I put it now, the alleged invasion of privacy by a certain section of the security outfit on young people who sometimes or most times are going about their legitimate business. And young people kind of pushed back on social media, and, it got to the ears of those in authority, and they kind of made a change to a policy. They actually banned the FSARS and other tactical units of the police. That's like a step in the right direction. Of course, I would agree with you on that. But how likely are we to see more of such pushbacks as we move forward?
Well, for me, I think for us to have enough pushback, we need to get more involved in all aspects of life. I mean, politics, business. It's not all about just getting a hashtag or trending stuff on Twitter or social media. It's about participating in the real business of things, about in politics, in even the police society. We should get involved. You should get involved in police society. You should get involved in government, in all aspects of life. That's the only way you can think about change and the desired goal.
All right, so this is one of the goals that has been achieved. I mean, would you say you are pretty much impressed, or would you say you have a positive feeling to this change in policy?
No. This is not the first time the IGP will be banning SARS from roadside block or roadside arrest and all that. This is since 2016, he has announced the ban on SARS arresting individuals on the road 5 times. So if this one is not going to be any different, I'm sure the next 3 months they'll be back on the road. The SARS guys will pipe low, and the next 3 months they'll be back on the road and back to arresting citizens illegally. The only way this can effectively solve this SARS harassment of citizens is for a whole structural change of the police, whereby the SARS operatives are under the supervision of the DPOs of each police station. That way, they are under the command of the DPO, and they can report to the DPO. And then, if anything happens in a particular area, residents of that community can easily go to the police station and say, "Oh, your men from the station came to harass our residents," or something like that. So, but with this pronouncement, it's just the same thing he has been doing all along. Nothing is going to change.
So what can be done to ensure that this time around it's not the same as it was the previous times?
One, all SARS officers, operatives should be under the DPO of each state police station. Like, for example, if there's a police division in Ikeja here, the SARS operative in Ikeja should be under the DPO in Ikeja. So that way, they can be held accountable if anything goes wrong in Ikeja area. But most times, these SARS bases are always scattered around the state, and they are always all under one SARS commander, which just for this, like for the whole state. And they can monitor what's going on somewhere in Bejuleki or Badagry. So that's way difficult for him to handle. But if it's under a DPO, which is lesser and easier for DPO to manage and oversee, that's really we can have concrete and effective decision.
All right. In the meantime, let's celebrate the little wins that we're making at the moment. I'll come back to you just in a moment again. So that's just per se one win, and I know there are numerous of other wins. There are numerous of other young people that are in the space, all of the spaces that you made mention of, doing good things that perhaps might inspire those coming behind, to be part of the process? I mean, I don't know if there are any for you that you can perhaps share.
Okay, so the first thing that we must understand is that Nigerian youths are creative, they are innovative, and they are going out of their way, despite the obvious failure of leadership. Now, we have two things as young people. The first thing is that we have the numbers on our side. We have the demographic advantage that can actually cause real social progress and change. And the second thing is that we have a new kind of power, which is new media and the social media. I mean, you talked about the answers. Nigeria's young people must be the generation that decides that enough is enough of failed promises, enough of police brutality, enough of enough of SARS, enough of all kinds of complete failure of leadership in all ways. Now, like I keep saying, Nigeria's young people who are the victims of this failure of leadership and near collapse of states cannot afford not to be interested. But the problem is that the idea of participation has been largely polarized. You do not need to be an outspoken activist, maybe like yourself or even myself, to be able to participate. Participation is just as simple as caring for the facts. Participation is just as simple as voting in an election, right? Young people should pick up their voters card beyond just using most of the voters cards for for registration, for bank registration and all that. They should participate and vote. They must decide. They said a society gets the kind of leadership that they deserve. Well, and that assumption is actually very right.
I was going to ask, actually.
Yes, that assumption is right because it is only expected that people are going to be part of the process that's going to produce their own leadership. Now, if you do not, they said, while actually elections are decided by those who vote, but the truth is that bad leaders are actually elected by those who do not vote. People can choose not to vote, because they have completely lost faith in the process. But the truth, by failing to vote, what you are doing is that
you're empowering.
Exactly, you are trying to empower other people to make choices for you, and you must actually be the ones who actually decide what you want. You must decide, if you want to get fair wages, if you want to have access to quality education, if you want to have access to wealth. Political leadership has a direct bearing on our lives, and none of us can afford to be uninterested. And that's that's the message I continue to remind young people, right? Young people should go right into the political, those who can afford to, should go right into the political party process and actually run for election. We must unseat the whole political order and entrench new democratic ideas.
They're not too young to run is also another win, for young people.
Absolutely,
so
that's what we can do. That is what we can do. When we mobilize, when we organize and rally ourselves for progress, that's what young people can do. We can actually unseat the old political order and entrench new democratic ideals as young people. Because we do not just have the power, but we have a new kind of power, a special kind of power in new media as well.
I was going to go into that topic, new power you're talking about, but let me just bring Michael quickly. Michael, Shoni is talking about this new power, but in as much as you trend the hashtags and all of that, if you don't take that activism offline, that desired results might not just be seen. So how do you get people to be more involved? Like you said, a lot of people just kind of are activists on social media and all of that, but they don't really come out when it's time for them to come out. What can be done to ensure that more people come out when there is the need for them to?
So the best thing Nigerians could do to get involved in politics is one, get involved in political parties, belong to a political party. You can't stay aloof. You can't say, oh, politics is too dirty, you don't want to be part of it. You have to be part of a political party to get power. So first, register with a political party, and two, attend the ward meetings, vie for position within a political party. Within 1 or 2 years, you can be able to vie for elective posts, and that's the only way you can get involved in politics. The other way is lobby for appointment with those in power, either as SA or PA, but which to me is not going to be effective unless you have political power, which is elective post. That's the only way you can effect change. And you must also bear this idea of if I don't have big money, I can't run for office. You don't need to have big money. You don't need to have a godfather. Just within your community, you can start from councillor, you can start from chairman of the government, or even the state house of assembly. That way, you can effect change in bits, but you don't need to run for governorship. You don't need to run for the presidency or senate. The office are all you need to get to and effect positive change.
Well, that positive change, I hope we get to see it as soon as possible. Like you said, start small, make those little steps. And of course, like it's been said, a journey of 1,000,000 miles begins with a step. But I'd have to say thank you Michael Abimboye, senior editor with Oprah News. Thank you for joining us via Skype from here in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Victor.
Of course. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment with another perspective. Please stay with us.